I worry about lots of stuff. Sometimes it all gets too much and I freeze and I can't move and I get sad. Hi, my name is Luke and I have anxiety.
Mom, is it points? No, it's not.
Our two boys, Luke and Felix. So Luke's our oldest, he's 9, and Felix is 7. They are a little bit like chalk and cheese in that Luke's our quite sensitive boy. He loves water, he'll do anything in water, swimming or jumping off the wharf, anything like that. And Felix is, he's our kind of outgoing, energetic drama dancer, loves reading and loves drawing. So, but they bounce off each other pretty well. They get on pretty well. They annoy each other now and again. In the couple of years that Luke's been really quiet, Felix tends to talk for Luke. So if we're in situations, Felix will be his voice a little bit. So, but also Felix helps Luke come out of his shell a little bit as well, which is really nice. So it's a nice combo.
Even though it's really freezing and my nipples are sticking out.
He was really easy, wasn't he? Easy baby.
As an infant.
Yeah.
Fed well, slept well, well behaved. Very calm in nature and demeanour, and it was, as parents you can't ask for more.
Yeah.
He stayed very quiet though, unfortunately.
They diagnosed him with selective mutism and social anxiety.
It was right, I guess. It took a while to get that diagnosis. I guess there's, as they said, like the symptom or the behaviours that you display between various conditions are quite similar, so it took quite a while to nail it down, so they were sure they knew what he had, and then I guess once that diagnosis was made, they could put an action plan into place to deal with it, whereas a misdiagnosis would have probably just caused more problems.
Try and bounce it off the stick. Should I bounce it on?
See how far you can get it. Can you beat me?
Okay.
Mine was right.
Stand back for Luke, stand back for Luke.
When he started school, and I think when the pressure was kind of on him to perform, that's when it really became a bit of an issue. Before that, it was fine. He'd just sit on my knee or he'd hang out with us more than socialising with other people. But once he got to school and he had to, do things in front of other people, then it got really hard for him, I think. And that's when, probably a year into school, that's when we really thought that it's a bit of a problem and he needs a bit of help, I think.
I think it's a perfect storm, but I don't think New Zealand manages well. I think our focus, very clearly what the research would support me with, is that our focus on only literacy and numeracy and cognitive intelligence in early childhood is probably the major contributor to our anxiety as a teenager.
It'll be about making a short documentary. It's going to be a persuasive...
We got quite desperate, I think, the more he went. So the same with that kindy, when dropping him off every day, he would cling to me, he didn't want to go. He'd talk about it the night before, I don't want to go to school tomorrow. On the weekend he'd be fine, and then you'd get to Sunday and he'd start worrying and I don't want to go to school. And so dropping him off to school, he'd be stuck to me. It was always quite a drama in the morning. He'd have to get peeled off me from the teacher every day. There'd be tears. It was really hard to watch him like that. In the first year, by term 3, you could tell that he'd stopped sleeping and eating. He was almost, I felt like he was getting depressed. He was so unhappy. And the holidays would come, and by a week into the holidays, he'd be like a different kid. He'd be happy again, smiling again. And then once came around to school again, would all start all over again.
What is anxiety? It's one of those bizarre questions, isn't it? Because it's almost like we need 10 different words for it, because there's oh, I've got to give a speech to, you know, the people at work, or should I wear my red jacket or my blue jacket? And then there is overwhelming panic attack for absolutely no reason, where your heart's racing and you feel like you're going to have a heart attack, and you're sweating and you've got messages loading through your head of insecurity and self-doubt, and you can't even necessarily know where it's coming from. New Zealand sits really high on that anxiety scale. You've only got to look at our suicide statistics to see that, which is made up largely of, you know, it's young Māori men that are making us #1 in the world. Without them, we'd be fairly typical with other countries. So, no, I don't think we do well. I don't think we teach our kids enough emotional intelligence. I think we're too obsessed in our education system on cognitive, academic outcomes without realising that you only achieve cognitive academic outcomes when you meet the needs of the lower part of the brain, when the person feels secure, when the person feels safe. That whole talk can be summarised in that sentence, that what we learned in the 1990s is that the human brain is genetically and biologically designed to interact with the environment in the first 1,000 days of its existence to see what sort of brain it's going to need for the rest of its life. You know, because the only... I tell people about how their babies' brains work and how they can optimise that. Getting them to understand the huge significance of the power of the first 1,000 days and what type of environment will best facilitate the child reaching their full potential, according to what science tells us and what we know from longitudinal studies and brain scans. Off work and sworn an oath on the Bible. You love it? I love it. love it. Because working with all of those abused children, you're working at the hard end of the sticks, and now to be working in that preventative end where these parents have got new babies and they're so open, they're so deeply spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically committed to wanting to do the best for that baby, and it's a privilege to work with those parents. Memory up with big words. So just understand you've got 4 brains inside your head, and the reason we get all excited about brain number 4 is because brains 1, 2 and 3, your dog has those 3 brains as well. It really is that simple. Your dog has brains 1, 2 and 3. You've got brains 1, 2, 3 and 4. So clearly brain number 4 does everything you can do that the dog can't do. Oh, welcome everybody. Yeah. A beautiful day in Christchurch. You're all keen to help? Yeah! Good to hear, excellent. What we're going to do is teach you a little bit about how your brain works. So, first of all, hands up, who's got a brain? Oh, excellent, that's everybody, great, we're off to a great start. What we're going to do today is more talk about your top brain and your bottom brain, because we're looking about how we manage anxiety, or when we're feeling nervous or anxious, how we manage that. So what's helpful is if you understand the 2 different brains you've got inside your head. So half of you are going to represent the bottom brain, and then the other half of the group are going to represent the top brain. Now, those 2 brains do 2 really different things. So why don't we just divide you down the middle there, have half the group go that way, and half the group go that way. Okay, so these people are going to be our bottom brain. The bottom part of the brain is the same part of the brain your dog's got. So it keeps your heart beating, keeps you breathing, but it's not really very clever. It's just kind of wild, that brain, right? And that's the brain that does all the things you can do the dog can't do. So what are some things you can do that the dog can't do? Writing must be in that part of the brain. Reading, yeah, you've got it. Yep. Talking, because the dog can't talk, can it? Now, the trick is your brain works like it's on a set of scales. Do you know what I mean by when I say scales? Yeah. Yep, so scales are 1 on each side. Scales can't be both up like this and down like this. Scales can only work like this, can't they? Yeah. They have to work in relationship to each other. So if you know how scales work, then you pretty much know how your brain works. Because if one part of the brain is up, so let's say you guys are all standing, then I need all you guys to squat down or sit down on the ground. And that means right now, that's how your brain works. So if this is my brain right now, that means I'm not going to be very good at controlling my emotions or looking after other people. but I'm going to be pretty good at being wild. Can you guys show me wild? What does wild look like? Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, crazy wild. So what I need to do, if I want to look after myself and be able to do my schoolwork, I need to calm this crazy wild part of the brain. So if I do things to calm you guys down, that's it, you're slow. And as they slowly sit down, you stand up again. And now, if this is my brain, now I feel nice and calm, those feelings are in the background, and now I'm able to focus on my friends and focus my attention and help to calm my emotions down. But now we hear a loud bang from behind you. Oh, now we've got a crazy brain taking over. Okay, right, it's all right. Everybody have a drink of water. Everybody have some food. Here, we'll get all your friends to come and help calm you down. And now as you all calm down with some food, and we start breathing deeply and calming down, and then our frontal cortex comes back online. Beautiful, guys. You demonstrated that beautifully. But what I was trying to teach kids is just the two-brain model, really. All the good stuff we want is in the frontal cortex, but that's not in charge. It doesn't just get to be in power all the time, or our lives would be so much simpler. You'd never be overruled by emotion. You'd never be overruled by anxiety or fear. But unfortunately, it's not. It's the baby in the family, your frontal cortex, and it's only once the bottom brain, which is your, survival's the prime directive, it's in charge. It's only when it's decided that it feels quite safe, it'll pass the juice, if you like, out to that top brain so that you can then access all that good stuff. But if you feel unsafe, then you're stuck in that bottom part. So getting them to understand how their brain works in that way, that's called metacognition, just understanding how your own thinking works. Research is showing that's an incredibly powerful tool to give children to allow them to self-regulate and manage their own learning. And how do we get back to our happy place? I think the kids were calling it, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what did you do at lunchtime?
Nothing.
I thought you did something crazy. What did you do? So you're going to tell me something now. One of the hardest times in my life, to watch him struggling and to know that he was desperately unhappy and I couldn't do anything about it and I just didn't know. And the anxiety, I guess, comes a little bit from me. It comes from me as well. So me realising that he had that as well and knowing that I've probably spent my whole life learning how to deal with it. I thought, how am I going to help this kid? I was like Luke, very quiet, but I kind of, I feel like it wasn't as hard for me when I was a kid. There wasn't as much pressure. I didn't talk a lot when I was a kid, but it was fine, You were a bit more seen and not heard then, maybe. And it wasn't so much pressure to perform or to be, a certain kind of a person. So, I just kind of did my little thing, but, didn't put myself out there too much. Sound right?
Yeah.
We go on a Luke walk. It's just Luke and I go, and I just walk and he talks. So that's the time where anything comes out, that if there's anything worrying him or not going well, he'll talk about it then. So we try and do that regularly, just so that he gets that time to talk. There's probably a lot of the little strategies that we learned that him and I do, kind of normally now. Like, like if he gets worried, that we talked about like what's your worry rating. So if he gets stressed about something, in the sessions we learnt what's your worry rating, Luke, and he'll rate it out of 10. So he might say 5 or 7 or 8. So I use that quite a lot.
And a sister.
Yeah, I thought maybe we could just give them a break.
What kind of stuff do you like to do at home, like with your brother or with your parents? What kind of stuff do you like to do?
Going for walks.
Yeah? Where do you go for walks?
Like around the block.
And who do you go for walks with?
My brother and my mum.
Fantastic. And what do you like about walking?
Chatting while we walk.
That sounds nice. That's such a nice area to walk into, isn't it? And when do you go for walks?
Every couple of weeks, we sometimes go for walks.
That's a really nice thing to do. Do you wait for it to be nice weather or do you go in any weather?
I wait for it to be nice.
Very sensible.
One of the most common questions I get is, how come if all my kids were raised in the same family with the same parents, why has one got anxiety and not the other ones? So the easiest way to describe that is it's to do with how nature interacts with nurture. We're not born with all the same genetic predisposition. So on this genogram here, we've got mum and dad, 4 children, male, female, female, male. Let's randomly give each of them a number to illustrate how much they're predisposed to, in this case, anxiety. We give the first one a score of 4, the next one 0, the next one 6, and the next one a 1. Now, we add a life stressor, an environmental stressor, say mum and dad get divorced. Now your third child has anxiety because they were already strongly genetically predisposed to it, even if you didn't know it. One stressor from the environment, boom, they've got anxiety. It leaves the parents saying, but all our children have experienced the divorce. Why is only this child showing the anxiety? It's how nature and nurture come together.
I was kind of desperate and searching for someone to help. And probably the first thing we did was I looked, Googled who can I get to help us, and Anxiety New Zealand came up, talked about anxiety and also social anxiety and the talking perhaps being part of that because he wouldn't talk to anybody. But there's no Anxiety New Zealand in Wellington, so I just booked a flight and flew up to the office. Glenn came home from work and I was like, I've booked a flight, I'm going up to Auckland, I'm going to try and find us some help. So I flew up there, called a cab to the Anxiety New Zealand office and went in and spent about 2 hours talking to a lady up there, and that was probably the first sign of someone, someone that kind of understood and someone that confirmed that, he probably does need a hand and we can help you, or someone can help. She told me to get him referred through the doctor.
It was quite difficult to find the right help, and of course, I guess the mental and social health system's strained at best, so these people are, everyone's busy. There's not many people who you could see if you could get to see someone, so as Nat said, a referral and actually, I guess, advocating on his behalf to make sure that he was going to go get to see someone, because while, there's always people worse off than you, you can't help but look after your own kids and actually finding that help, finding the right person to help and then actually getting them in front of that person was not easy, but it took Nat, we persevered with it and we got some good help from the hospital.
Once we got him in, they got him into a little course called Cool Kids Anxiety Group, and it was like, once a week we go after school, and there was maybe 10 other families, all with kids with anxiety, and he got a huge amount out of that. You get taught tools and lessons in life, and you don't actively think about that all the time, but you know them, and you've got them in the back of your mind, so you can deal with situations as and when they arise, without having to go through that process of thinking about it every time. And it seems to be, it's worked pretty well. He's far more outgoing than he used to be. Some of the teachers have been amazing, and when he gets anxious, because he used to freeze up regularly, daily, he would freeze in class, and it would be quite a drama. Once the pressure came off and, they didn't focus on him anymore, if it happened in class, they would just, kind of crack a joke. He's got quite a good sense of humour, so that's a good way to get him out of anxiety. So they might say a joke, make him smile, and that would just get him moving enough, and then they would carry on.
Hold on. Ori, you what? Can you do it?
Definitely with social anxiety, it was something that Luke has been suffering for a long time and still does, is I suppose not knowing what to do when he doesn't know what to do, and that's when anxiety kicks in and he freezes. So social side of things, there were I suppose a lot of needs there around Luke feeling I suppose unable to manage himself in certain situations.
So remember, if you don't feel up to it, you just give Will a nod and he'll introduce you. Okay?
I'd love to see a country where the teachers were actually empowered more to run the education system, because I find generally teachers have the best intentions at heart. Teachers want happy students, not just students within CEA. But teachers can only do what the system forces them into doing, you know, to a large extent.
So, fellas, where are you going to stand as the video?
He's becoming more and more able to do it. Last year, in the years before, definitely nothing. And there were touches of it, you know, his ability and capability of talking to strangers or teachers or even his friends.
On Wednesday day, wore pyjamas. Please bring a gold coin donation. I will come around the classes on Friday before morning tea to collect your kind donations.
You get a more intelligent child by building the brain in the sequential way that it's evolved. And that means early childhood should be focused on belonging, well-being, confidence, contribution. And sure enough, the early childhood curriculum, that's exactly what it focuses on. But we have a culture in New Zealand that says, get those kids ready for school. Sit down, literacy, numeracy, what colour's this, you know, what number comes after that. That limits children's creativity, it limits their emotional intelligence, and it makes them more vulnerable to anxiety and depression as teenagers.
So what about some of the other things you can think about? What about some of your solar power, wind power, water power?
We have solar power.
You got solar power? Good. Yes, you do. I suppose from talking to everybody and building a picture, the most important thing was getting to know Luke, I suppose, for the first initial term and learning all about Luke's needs and his possible barriers and his triggers to his anxiety or what creates him to be anxious. And so after a while getting to know him, communicating with home a lot and talking to Nat and Glenn about Luke, started building a picture of his triggers. Yeah, excellent. It's hydrate.
Yeah.
Actually structuring the day for Luke so he's aware of what's coming up, but that on multiple platforms, that it's written on the board, that he had a printed off copy of what's coming up on the week. There was a digital copy on the blog. So Luke was someone that, you know, struggled a lot with, I suppose, sharing his ideas. And so with my background in digital technologies, it was something I was really passionate about, and I know the benefit it could have for children and their learning. And so I suppose I started introducing these sorts of digital technologies aspects into his class and into his learning, and saw that he really connected with sharing and creating using digital tech.
Got to the point at school where he wouldn't write in front of anybody, and he stopped writing at home because he was worried it wasn't good enough. And so they just took the pressure off. They brought in technology and let him type it instead of writing it, and things like that.
There's an increasing number of primary schools that are focusing on dispositional learning, emotional intelligence, really, really well. So it's exciting. We just need to do more.
Last year we started a Muratai Makers Club, and we offered this to Luke as an option, and he was the first one that wanted to be involved because he knew there was a safe place. He knew that it was here at school, that there were some friends that were involved, that I was involved, so he felt comfortable enough to come.
Mum took me to Wellington Free Ambulance to see...
Just seeing him make the documentary was good enough, but then having the confidence to stand up in assembly to speak about it, and then going on to win a national movie-making competition about the documentary and being invited up to Tauranga to the awards.
Luke had lots of different things that he was, that made him anxious initially, like earthquakes or tornadoes. He used to think a tornado was going to come and take the house down, and most nights he'd ask, are there tornadoes in New Zealand? Things like that worried him a lot. So after the Christchurch quakes, we had a few shakes here. It was quite big for him, like earthquake drills and stop, drop and hold. He took all of that very, very seriously. So that caused him a lot of anxiety initially. And then it was just anything new. He was a perfectionist. So if there was any new game or anything, he couldn't take part. He'd stop and, wouldn't take part. And yeah, social interactions, big groups of people really scared him. He was better one-on-one, and he formed some really nice friendships early on with just one or two boys who got to know him and kind of looked after him, which was nice. Everywhere we went, football, we tried to get him to play football, and we think we spent 2 seasons with him standing on the side of the field. He couldn't go on. We might have gone on once. Something little happened and big meltdown and he'd come off again. That'd be it for another, few
season.
games. So he's just about completed his first season playing in a team. And now we turn up and he goes on the field, and that feels like, for it might seem like nothing for someone, but that's amazing that he can now turn up to a game and he runs on without thinking about it and plays the game with his mates, and
he's
and he enjoys
he's doing really well. He gets like player of the day or what have you, and he's all proud of that, and he's got his little trophy, so he's doing really well.
They probably want me to take off the gloves, but still.
Positive disposition to learning would be that learning is multifaceted, open-ended and creative, so that a child builds something with Play-Doh, Lego. There is no right, wrong answer to that. They learn the dispositions you need for learning, like sustaining attention. If we want a child to sustain attention on a mathematical problem that is not as easily solved immediately, the disposition behind that is perseverance. So I know it's difficult for adults to make that leap sometimes, but the kids spending 3 hours building their Lego city is perseverance. It is applying yourself to tasks. It is developing a disposition towards problem solving, persevering. That kid's got to solve major engineering problems with his Lego. He's got to negotiate relationships as other people want to come in and either destroy his Lego or they want to come in and be included in the Lego.
When we started going to the Cool Kids group, or ICAFs, he couldn't say hello to his friends in the morning when he went to school. He couldn't walk into school on his own. He had a lot of little processes that he would go through to kind of help him, like, we parked at the same place every day. We walked in together, we put his bag up, we'd wait for the teacher to arrive. So, we had to go through a lot of steps to help him feel comfortable.
Oh, jeez, I nearly choked on my cracker.
Because you see the day-to-day stuff as opposed to everyone else might just see him talk in assembly and think he's absolutely fine. Whereas actually, he has had problems, he still has problems, he still will have problems, but just dealing with it and watching him, I guess, accomplish those little steps, but repeatedly accomplish those little steps. So you can kind of see that it is becoming the norm as opposed to what he used to be like, which is difficult.
You're seeing him happy, just happy to be himself. And then he doesn't have to be, the big confident person, that he can just be himself and be happy. That's, when I see him sometimes and he's just smiling, he's happy. That's all I want. Not everyone fits the same mould, and that's okay. Yeah, I think that's what he wrote a thing at the end of last year to his teacher saying thank you, a car or something, and it said something, I can't remember the words, but it said something like thank you for making it okay to be me, something like that. And it's just, realising that he's okay being who he is. Yeah.
It's okay to be nervous and scared sometimes, but remember, there are people out there willing to help you be brave. Set yourself a goal, take small steps, and take on a challenge. You can do anything. I did. I wonder what I'll do next. Daffodil Day, the school gala, the election, world peace, interstraw, interstellar travel.
I just want to talk about anxiety. So, do you even know what anxiety means? What does anxiety mean to you?
And then we had that February earthquake, and that's where clearly things were very stressed.
When you have butterflies in your stomach and you feel like really scared to do something.
Okay, yeah, sometimes you do feel it physically.
You get anxious. I use this when I'm stressed or something. There's a charm hidden inside.
And looking back now, I'm like, oh my goodness, there was so much that happened to her in the first 1,000 days of her life that I'm surprised that she functions at all, to be fair.
Attitude was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.